Hello and welcome to the dungeon. I'm your host Rob. In today's video we're going to be looking at the Peace Domain Cleric, which was the other new subclass we got. We also get the Order Domain, although technically that was just basically taken from Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, but I will be covering them in the next video as well. But I wanted to do the two brand new ones first. Although they're not brand new by now because it's taken me a while to get to them. But whatever. You know what I'm talking about. So last time we did the Twilight, we're going to be doing the Peace Domain today. But I did want to say, in my last video, I should have talked about some of the new things that we also got for clerics from Tasha's, because I didn't actually mention them, and usually I like to do that. So we did get some new spells, none until 3rd level, but we do get Aura of Vitality, which in my opinion is a great healing spell. Spirit Shroud, if I'm going to be a melee focused cleric, that could be okay. I think it really shines if we have a way of getting extra attack, like maybe we multi-classed, then I think it starts to look even better. Either way, level 4 we get Aura of Life and Aura of Purity. Level 5 though we get Summon Celestial, which is the one I'm really the most excited about on the spell list. Mostly because I love summoning spells, and clerics don't really have a lot. They have some really good ones like Planar Ally and Conjure Celestial, sorry. But now, Summon Celestial is only 5th level compared to 6th or 7th, like the other two. You don't have to, sacrifice a major artifact to your religion or anything like you might have to with Planar Ally. And if you look at the way most of the Wizards of the Coast, pre-made adventures are built, right? Most of them go to 10th to 15th level. Yeah, you get Dungeon Mad Mage that goes all the way to 20. But Ravenloft is 1 to 10, Storm King's Thunder is 1 to 10, Out of the Abyss and the 2-part Tiamat one both go to 15. You've got things like Ghost of Saltmarsh, which are 12, and or is that one 11? Whatever, Tomb of Annihilation's around 11 or 12. You get a lot of them in that range. So by the time you get those 6th or 7th level spells, the campaign's probably over or already done. You might not even get there at all. So it's just the fact that I only need to get 9th level. Even with something like Ravenloft will get me to 10th level. So I might actually be able to use this in our big battle at the end, right? And any of the other ones, I'm definitely going to be able to use it as well. That is kind of nice. I really like the 1st to 5th level spells in these types of campaigns. Now, if you're doing your own homebrew stuff, or if your DM's like, yeah, I don't care, we're going to do Ravenloft, and then we're just going to keep going after that, and I'll just homebrew the rest, or we'll just make stuff, right? Then, not a big deal, right? If your campaign's going to go beyond that. But a lot of people look at the 7th and 8th and 9th level spells, and then we have campaigns that never get that high sometimes. So, I do think that it's a pretty nice addition to the summoning type cleric spells. We also get our Harness Divine Power, which I kind of like. Basically, as a bonus action, you can give up one of your channel divinities and turn it into a expanded spell slot and regain a spell slot. Can be no higher than half your proficiency bonus, rounded up. But I do think this is a pretty good ability because certain domains have some very circumstantial channel divinities. And they're really great under those particular circumstances, but those circumstances may not come up that often. So the fact that maybe you have a channel divinity, you don't use that often, now you have the option of changing it for spell slots, kind of like what a sorcerer can do essentially, right? And I do think that's a nice option. And personally, I think it's pretty good. We also get the Cantrip Versatility at level 4 and Blessed Strikes at level 8. So level 4, you can change out your cantrips. At level 8, you can change out, normally you get either your potent cantrips or your Divine Strike. This kind of lets you do the middle ground where you can do an extra D8 to either your cantrips or your strikes. It's not going to scale the way that Divine Strike does, so if you want to be a melee or melee focused cleric, I'd probably still stay with that. But if you're kind of mixing it up a lot, or sometimes you just find yourself in the front row, or maybe you're like a life domain cleric, but you don't really use your weapons that much, you don't really melee stuff, you might want to change it out and say, I'm mostly casting, but now I'm wearing heavy armor, I'm wearing a shield, right? And that's a lot better than not doing so. So, I think it's a nice option for that as well. Anyways, moving on to the actual Peace Domain. We'll start with the spell list, which I think is pretty decent overall. It's not the best cleric spell list out there, mostly because there's a lot of really good spells, but very few that come from outside the cleric spells list naturally, right? But that's still okay. Having them as always prepared and never having to, have to worry about it is quite nice, right? So level 1, we get Heroism and Sanctuary. Both pretty good, especially Heroism, I like a lot. Level 3, we get Aid and Warding Bond. And again, both pretty good spells, especially Aid. Level 5, Beacon of Hope and Sending. Not bad. Beacon of Hope is really good on like someone like a Life Cleric, but it's not bad on you either. Level 7, we get Aura of Purity and Autolux Resilient Sphere. I like Autolux Resilient Sphere a lot because A, it's not a cleric spell normally, so now we're getting something added to our spell list from outside. But B, it's pretty flexible. You can use it as a crowd control effect. You can use it as an emergency, like, oh, hey, the wizard almost went down, let's put him in a bubble or whatever, and I'll heal him later. We don't need that guy anyways. He's never pulling his own weight. So it's nice to have those options. Level 9, you get Greater Restoration and Rari's Telepathic Bond. Greater Restoration, of course, is an excellent spell, but it's also a circumstantial spell that you might not need very much. So having it on your spell list is perfect for your domain spell list, because, now you don't have to have it prepared. If you need it, you've got it whenever you want it. If you don't need it, no big deal. And Rari's Telepathic Bond, most tables I play at, all the players just kind of have this ability innately, it seems. So your mileage with it may vary, but under some circumstances, you may have chances where the party can't really communicate with each other, or separated, or in different rooms, or whatever. And so the spell can be a lot more useful if they know they're going to have those circumstances. But usually it's one that I don't personally get a lot of use out of it, but other people may. So moving on to the actual domain abilities. Level 1, we get Implement of Peace. You gain proficiency in the insight, performance, or persuasion skill of your choice. So that's not bad. Free skill, nothing wrong. We also get Emboldening Bond. And here's where the magic starts. This ability on its own is pretty good, but I wouldn't say it's insane, but it just keeps getting better as we go. So you can forge an empowering bond among people who are at peace with one another. As an action, you choose a number of willing creatures within 30 feet of you, which can include yourself, equal to your proficiency bonus. So at level 1 here, it's only going to be you and one other creature, or it could be 2 creatures and excluding you, right? But eventually it'll be 6 creatures. You create a magical bond among them for 10 minutes or until you use this feature again. While any bonded creature is within 30 feet of another, so not necessarily even you, just 30 feet of another bonded creature, the creature can roll a die 4 and add the number rolled to an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw it makes. Each creature can add the d4 no more than once per turn. You can use this feature a number of times equal to proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So basically it's like a concentration-free, spell slot-free version of Bless. Now, that's not entirely true because it doesn't really scale with extra attack. They can only do it once per turn, right? But it's still pretty freaking good in my opinion. It also doesn't say it wouldn't stack with Bless. It's not using your concentration. There's no reason you couldn't cast that. And now people could be adding 2 die 4 to their attacks and saving throws. And even an extra die 4 to their ability check, which usually isn't from Bless. That would usually be from Guidance if you wanted that. And I think it's pretty good. Like I said, a couple characters at once. Nice but not game breaking, but things only get better from there. We also get at level 2, we get our Channel Divinity, which is Balm of Peace. You can use your Channel Divinity to make a very presence, a soothing balm. That's balm, not bomb. As an action, you can move up to your speed without provoking opportunity attacks, and when you move within 5 feet of another creature during this action, you can restore a number of hit points to that creature equal to 2 die 6 plus your wisdom modifier. And it can receive this healing only once when you take this action. I do think that this is a pretty decent ability, especially at low level. There's not a lot of scaling. Like, yeah, it scales with your wisdom bonus, but if you started with a +3 bonus, you're probably looking at a +5 by the end of your career. That's not a lot of scaling, but especially at low levels here, it's very strong. You could move, which gives you more mobility. You're not provoking opportunity attacks. It's not using a dash action or anything like that. And you don't have to end your turn within 5 feet of them. It's just you just have to be within 5 feet of them at some point while using this movement. So you could pass through a bunch of party members and heal all of them for that 2d6 plus wisdom mod. And as a level 2 ability, that's quite a bit of healing. So like I said, it doesn't scale the best, but it's very strong at this point. Level 6, Protective Bond. And here's where things start to get crazy. The bond you forge between people helps them to protect each other. When a creature affected by your emboldening bond feature is about to take damage, a second bonded creature within 30 feet of the first can use its reaction to teleport to an unoccupied space within 5 feet of the first creature. The second creature then takes all the damage instead. So let's bear in mind, by now you've got a +3 proficiency bonus, so your bond is affecting up to 3 creatures. Let's say that you have a warlock, yourself, and maybe a barbarian in a party who are all bonded, right? As long as you're within 30 feet of one another, any one of you could use your reaction to take damage for the other. So let's say the barbarian gets hit with like a dragon breath weapon, right? A fire breath. The tiefling could use their reaction to take the damage instead because they have resistance to fire. If the tiefling gets crit by something and takes a ton of physical damage, the barbarian could use their reaction to take the damage for the tiefling because they're raging, and that damage is going to get cut in half anyways. And then of course there's you, and you can just heal people, whatever you need to do, just throwing out healing, whatever, right? It gets pretty insane. However, Treant Monk did a video in which he specifically talked about a combination. He had players in a campaign who wanted to play a Twilight Cleric, and then another one was going to play the Peace Domain Cleric. And the combination they wanted to use, because we covered Twilight Domain Cleric last week, was how the Twilight Domain can use their channel divinity to hand out those temporary hit points every single round. This means that if you had both in your party, the Twilight Domain is giving everybody temporary hit points, and now everyone's able to use their reactions to take damage from each other. And whoever has temporary hit points can just be like, yeah, I'll take that hit. Oh, I want a temporary hit points? Okay, well, I'll take that one then instead. Oh, I'll take this one, And you can just bounce around, constantly absorbing damage from one another, and then the next round, everybody gets temporary hit points again. And the next round, and the next, and the next. And that is absolutely insane. Like, I don't know that I'd want to necessarily run a campaign like that, which was his concern as well. I do think, though, that it might be fun as a one-shot. Like, I imagine like an all-cleric party, and that could be a lot of fun, just to kind of screw around with some of these abilities. Say you all start at level 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever, right? And everybody has to play a cleric. I think that'd be a lot of fun, just to try this stuff out. But I do think it would get really old really fast if every single combat almost your players wanted to start trotting out this kind of strategy. Either way, though, it is an insane ability, even if you don't have, a Twilight Domain Cleric constantly giving you temporary hit points. Just the fact that you can teleport around, absorb damage for one another, whoever has the most hit points left. I mean, it really just turns the party's hit points into like a hit point pool where anyone could just, oh, I still have hit points, I'll take that one, It's absolutely ridiculous. Level 8, Potent Spellcasting. You add your Wisdom modifier to the damage you deal with any cleric cantrip. So, again, usually you get either Potent Spellcasting or you get Divine Strike, which adds to your weapon damage. You get the Potent Spellcasting, which is perfect for this class, in my opinion. You don't have heavy armor like the Twilight Domain Cleric does. You don't have any weapon the way that they do, or some of the other domains. Of course, I'm just mentioning Twilight because that was last week's video. I personally prefer this one anyways. I tend to even if I have heavy armor on a cleric, I don't necessarily want to be making a lot of weapon attacks all the time. Maybe I do if I play like a war cleric. That's kind of the idea, right? But a lot of times I just want to cast spells and hit people with cantrips if I'm concentrating on something better. Level 17, Expansive Bond. The benefits of your emboldening bond and protective bond features now work when creatures are within 60 feet of each other, so it doubles the range, right? Moreover, when a creature uses a protective bond to take someone else's damage, the creature has resistance to that damage. So we already mentioned the idea of the tiefling taking the fire damage and the barbarian taking the physical damage, but basically now just everybody essentially has that. I think it's pretty strong. I don't think that it's super over the top. You could have already been working that kind of stuff out anyway. And it is a level 17 ability. A lot of your stuff's not going to get that high. But it is pretty good. It's taking like an already great ability and just making it just that little bit better, you know? So overall, I think it's an extremely strong subclass. Maybe even better than the Twilight Domain, which is pretty crazy to say. Of all the different classes and Tashas, clerics are definitely one of the ones who like made out the best. Sorcerers did really well as I was going to say as well. They did really well as well. Terrible sentence structure there, but clerics really cleaned up. Like I said, we'll talk about the Order Domain Cleric, but like I said, they did kind of come from Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, so I don't really consider them like a new cleric subclass. But now it's not, you know, Ravnica specific. Anybody can use them, which I think is also kind of nice. And it's not that the Order Domain Cleric is bad. They really aren't. They're a perfectly fine subclass. It's just when you compare them to the other two, they do look like they maybe didn't make it quite as well. However, like I said, I still like them, and I'll cover them in a video too. So I'm on vacation this week, so I'm hoping to come up with another video in the next few days. But it is my daughter's birthday right away, and we are going on a road trip as well. So I might not have as much free time as I was originally hoping. I want to come up with several videos this week, but I'll have at least one more, and that'll be the Order Domain Cleric. So anyways, that's everything. Thank you for watching. Feel free to comment, subscribe, like, ring the bell, all that kind of stuff. Most importantly, as always, leave me your comments in the comment section. I love reading them, and thank you very much.